Welcome to the Overcoming Objections training. My name is Brittany Young, and I'm an executive sales mentor for female financial experts who are looking to close more sales using a permission-based sales system. And today I wanted to drop this training for you around overcoming objections. Now, you might be thinking, objections usually come at the end of a conversation. They don't usually happen to me maybe in the beginning of the conversation or the middle of the conversation. They're always at the end. Well, not only are you going to see the different objections that people face, which are usually time, money, spouse, ROI sometimes, really depends upon what your conversation is going to be about. However, I want you to pay attention when people are giving you an objection, where it might be in the conversation. I find that people drop objections very early on, even in a pre-qualified questionnaire. So if you do not have a pre-qualified process within your business, that would be where you could actually identify an objection pretty quickly and early on and be able to diffuse that in your sales call, even begin to recognize where the person's pattern is when it comes to this particular objection. But if you don't have a pre-qualifying system, that's okay. This is going to show you how to diffuse some of those objections that you might be facing. And this is important because, well, 9 times out of 10 on sales calls, we're facing some sort of objection, whether it sounds like I can't afford it, or yes, but not yet, or I want to do this, I just don't have the time to fit it into my busy schedule. I need to talk to my spouse. I don't know if this is worth it. Can you explain how your potential clients or your other clients may have gotten an ROI? So we're often hearing these things either, again, at the beginning, during the conversation, it could come up, or at the end, which is usually the case. And so if you're struggling with these particular objections, I've got the training here for you today to really dive deep into each one of those. Now, if you're at the point where you're getting these objections and you don't know how to shift the mindset of that other person or even yourself, you're stumbling over your words. That's why I put this together. And it's really imperative to pay attention to your own language as much as it is imperative to pay attention to your potential prospects' language. And what I mean by that is making sure you're listening to exactly what they're saying. Maybe you're jotting down some notes so you can understand where they're coming from when they present this particular objection, and always using their language and it's coming out of you. So if somebody says to you, yeah, I don't have the time, and I'm doing so many other programs and my kids are in daycare and I pick them up, at 2 o'clock every day, blah, 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 right? And I don't know if I have time to get my books in order or, which is a problem, or hire a financial advisor at this time, or, some sort of financial expert, because I just don't know if it's worth my energy, right? So you could say, well, Brittany, what I'm hearing you say is you don't have the time to X, Y, Z. Reiterate back, mirror back exactly what I, mirroring back what I said, mirroring back what the client is saying. So you're using their words, and that way their subconscious is listening Your conscious is involved. I'll take a sneeze break. And also, because we're mirroring back, this identifies that you are paying attention. Your prospect feels seen, they feel heard, they feel appreciated. You're listening into those cues so you can mirror back exactly what they're saying, which gives them peace of mind in the conversation. When you shift this, usually the prospect will wind up lowering their defenses. They're going to lean into you and listen even more hardcore than they were already. They're not afraid to trust you or tell you exactly what they may be experiencing, because ultimately it may not even be time as that main objection. It could be something totally different. And so we're going to dive into that as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about how to navigate some of these objections. Now, there's an entire document that I'm going to put together for you. Well, here it is for this training. And so follow along. If you have questions after this training, please feel free to send me a DM on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions in regards to this particular training. So I want to start here. What exactly is an objection and why do we actually receive them? So an objection is anything that a prospect kind of raises an alarm about and goes, okay, I can't afford it, right? Right off the bat, they say, you know what? I've seen you talk about pricing and it scares me to make such a large investment over $500. It scares me to make that type of investment. So they're disqualifying themselves by saying, I don't have the money. So in their brain, they're walking into this conversation with, yes, but blank, that barrier of obstruction. And so when these come up, our job is not to attach to the outcome of the answer in which they're presenting. Our job as the seller is to really pay attention to our own body language, our tone, and what we're communicating back, which will ultimately help in the decision-making process. Okay. So if someone presents an objection, it's a time for you to really dig into service. Sales is service. If you see sales as transactional, then this is not a training for you. If you're looking for more transactional sales, I'm not the person to learn from. I teach more from a service-based place when it comes to selling and when it comes to handling these type of things like objections. So when we talk about objections, they can happen in cold calling, they can happen in your content, they can happen on a sales call, and even in conversations that you might be having in person, whether you're meeting somebody at an event, a conference, you got on stage and you delivered a talk, and they're presenting objections right then and there in the conversation. So we really want to understand why someone is presenting us with an objection. And it's important that we note an objection is not rejection of you. Okay. It has nothing to do with you at all. It's really that person's own fears, their own insecurities, their own distrust that they're bringing to the table. So again, can we detach from the outcome and the answer, and be more in that service, be more in that listening mode, really asking them why they feel a certain way, helping diffuse any of that pain that they might be going through at that time. So it's really about uncovering our prospect's objection. What does it really mean? And sometimes they just want more information from you, such as, can you provide more value? Can you explain your offer a little bit deeper so they understand why they would want to work with you? So again, in the beginning, I talked about the 4 main objections that you may face. Price, can't afford it. I can't do this right now. I want to, but I don't have the money. What have you done as far as getting a return on investment for other clients? 2, results, right? People will buy based on the outcomes and results of what you're talking about from other clients. They see it occurring in your content, when you're selling, maybe on your website, if that's something that you sell from. And then also, people really want to know, what is the process that you're going to take them through? Whether you're an accountant, financial advisor, or you're doing a financial plan, they want to know what that process is. If that's an objection that comes up in the very beginning, great. You can ask many questions around that. We're not going to have time to dive into specific sales questions today, but you can book a call and we can go over your sales process in detail and in depth to uncover what questions you might be missing in your sales process. And I'll talk a little bit later about what a sales audit looks like when working with me. The third one is trust. Can I trust that you are the person that I want to hire? Right? This will often look like, I need to talk to my husband, or I need some sort of backing from you in order for me to see that this is a two-way street. This is a relationship. It's not transactional. And number 4, that timing piece. I don't have the time. I'm a mother of 6 and I just can't make this work, right? So we're going to dive deep into those today. And no matter what happens when it comes to an objection, remember, validate that potential prospect's concern. Let them know you're here for them. You understand what they're saying. You are giving clear evidence that you're in it with empathy and service. I just have a few kind of points here that we're going to go over when we're dealing with objections. So I love this particular part of the training because it's not just about, it's an objection. We need to understand the what behind the objection, the why behind the objection, and how we can actually handle the objection. So number 1, we want to get really clear and understand, what is the concern? Why do they have this concern? Why are they bringing this up at this point in the conversation now? Okay. It's not about you creating any sort of back and forth, like, well, you're saying this, I don't understand why, right? We're not getting into defense mode. We're also not trying to come from a place of anger or frustration. This is really trying to understand, what is the concern behind the reasoning that they're giving. So if someone says, I just don't have the time, even though I booked the sales call today, all what you presented is great, but I don't know if I have the time to do this. So I would say, okay, Brittany, great. When you say you don't have the time to do this, What do you mean by that? Pause. Allowing them to actually give you the answer instead of going into like, I need to actually explain what I'm asking, right? You could say in another way, could you tell me more about why you feel you won't have the time for this? How did you come to that conclusion? So there's many ways of asking in order for you to get clarity from the particular objection first. Now, remember, I mentioned this might come up in the beginning of the conversation, might be in the middle of the conversation. That's why we're listening and paying attention. Emotional awareness is key here. Okay. Emotional awareness is the first step in the permission process that I teach to potential clients because, or I should say clients rather, because it is a place where not only are you emotionally invested in the conversation, but you also learn how to detach from their emotions when they're bringing them to the table in such of an objection, or even just bringing them up, or having their guard up because they've been on many calls and it just doesn't feel good to them to be speaking with you, even though they're speaking with you, right? I wrote a post on this today and I just want to read it out loud to you because it was kind of like, all right, I came with the heat today with this. So emotional awareness when you're on your sales calls allows you to read between the lines when a potential prospect puts up a smokescreen, or like puts up a defense mechanism, or leans away. Body language is also key here. When you're emotionally aware in the conversation, you can help your potential client become more vulnerable and really get to the heart at what's going on. Because it may not be a time issue at all. It could be something completely different. And what this is going to help you do is ultimately close the sale and help them understand how you will be able to uncover this particular issue when you're working with them. So emotional awareness right off the bat is important when we're speaking about clarifying, when we're getting to the point of, tell me what you mean by that. What's really behind this? And can we interact on an emotional level? Once you have a more clear understanding, right, you're going to then have a discussion. You're helping them think and overcome their particular concerns, just putting some spaces in between. So number 2, we want to get down and dirty into that actual real concern. Okay. Because in the clarification section, you have built that trust. You're talking to them empathetically. You're understanding their concern. Now we can have an open conversation, just like you would with a girlfriend sitting and having coffee. Even though this is a working relationship, you can still build that trust. That foundation of the relationship is based on that emotional connection. So it's both of you trying to work out how to solve the issue. That particular problem that they came to you for is really why they're on the call. They're looking to solve their specific problem. And most of the time, they don't even know that they have this issue, but it got brought up in conversation. So now we're trying to get them to see that we know how to solve this issue. Number 3, this is about diffusing and really understanding how can we ask particular questions when we want to diffuse the objection. Now, when I say diffuse, it's not about deflecting and like ignoring the actual objection, right? If somebody says, I don't have the time, We're not going to push that aside, but we want to get clarity from them, how can they resolve this? How can they overcome this particular objection with our help and the understanding that they can actually handle this. They could handle this even without us, but we get them to solve the problem faster, quicker, easier with our processes. So I'm going to skip over this for now, and we're going to go into objection number 1. Okay. Will this work for me? I didn't get results in the past. I didn't see an ROI. I didn't make my money back. I worked with a terrible coach or a terrible advisor, and there was no return. And I'm basically scared to invest. Okay. So if you really read between the lines and you have that emotional awareness, the deep concern here is actually a fear of failure. And that's normal. A lot of us who hire a coach, an expert, even a financial advisor, financial planner, we're scared. Maybe because the results were not there. Maybe because we invested a lot of money and that person ghosted us, or, we didn't hear from them. I often hear from my female financial experts that, in particular, the advisors and planners. Yeah, the reason why a client came to me is because they were working with a man and they only heard from him every quarter, once a year. That's really disheartening. So that fear of failure, it's real. And here's some ways that you can actually handle this, right? I personally have a guarantee in my program. That guarantee states that given the conditions, you did your part, I did mine. We showed up, we did the work together, but you also did the work on your own. Given some of these conditions, I have this guarantee that says, if neither of us showed up, we can continue working together and at no cost to you for 90 days more. Okay. So you can put a guarantee inside your program, especially if you know that your program has gotten results for prospects that you've worked with in the past. You can also refer back to how you work with clients, how committed you are to actually getting your clients the results that they're looking for. Or you can shoot straight to the hip, which is usually what I do. And you could say, can you tell me more about what your fear is regarding not getting results in the past? Do you feel like you're in fear right now? And can we talk about that? So here's some more questions. Usually when this comes up, it comes down to a fear of failure. Do you resonate with that? What do you mean by you didn't get results? Can you explain that a little bit deeper? Where else in your life have you been afraid to fail? Can we sit with this fear for a second? Do you believe you would have been afraid to fail if you had worked on this issue? So many angles, many ways to come at this particular objection. And then from here, you can go back into your sales processes questions in order to process this, or as I like to do it, sell your way. So have the conversation around the clarity, have the conversation around, we'll go back up so you remember, around that discussion. How can we go back and forth and create a solution to this particular problem? And then how can we really learn how to diffuse their concerns and get them to a place that they're feeling ready to make a decision? Now, a decision could be a no. It could be a yes. Even if it's a no, they made a decision, right? As long as we diffuse the objection, we did our part. It is now up to them to make a decision. So we'll get to that in a minute. Second objection. I would love to. I think this is great, but I can't afford it right now. Sometimes your potential clients literally cannot afford what you're presenting. They may be scared to death to invest again, or scared to death to invest at all if they've never invested before. So sometimes they literally cannot afford what you're offering. But sometimes they can afford it. However, they're just really afraid to trust this decision that they're about to make. They're not sure if it's the right decision. They're not sure if they're ready to commit to this particular decision. In that case, I always ask a commitment-based question. I also ask what I call a consequence question. So a commitment question is, well, I know most people say, if it's not for the money, I would totally do this. This is great. But I want to know from you, how committed are you to said solution, said goal, said whatever they mentioned to you? How committed are you? And why now? Why are you wanting this now? Why didn't it happen 6 months ago? Why now? And to follow that up, we ask, what happens if you don't change said problem? Can you afford to not work on said problem? Okay. We want them to have this shift, right? And then to follow that up. So, Kim, what is it that you really want? What do you really want? Are you going to buy what you don't want or what you do want? And then lastly, my favorite question, are you ready to claim your power? Are you ready to fully step in to knowing that this could be the right decision for you? And are you ready to make that decision? So many things to read over. You have this document to go over. You will get a copy of this alongside of this training. So no fear, okay? If you miss something, I've got you covered. Remember, people may not believe that they can afford what you're offering. And if that's the case, they're literally in their mind subconsciously blocking themselves from a possible life-changing decision. Okay. And that's why we ask that power question. You probably heard this one many times. If it weren't for the money, would this be a yes for you? Right? If that's the case, if they say yes, you can either go right into, well, I have financing options, I have payment plans. And then you might face a commitment question, an objection there, which is all well and good. But we want to know why they feel like this might be the option for them. So we follow up that question. If it weren't for the money, would this be the right thing for you? Why do you think so? And we ask the why because we want to know from them what's their why behind saying yes to this, money aside. Okay. Then when they say, yeah, like, I know it's amazing. I see the value in this. I see that it's going to change my business. It's going to change my personal finances. It's going to change whatever it is. So you could say, great. Thank you for sharing that. Since you feel like this might be the solution for you, aside from the money, can we possibly brainstorm what it would look like to make this work for you? I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to, and then their desired result. What's that outcome that they're truly looking for? That they said earlier, possibly when you ask a solution-based question to get to, right? How can we work together to get there? Objection number 3, I need to think about it. I think this is great, but I need to think about it. What they're really saying to you here is, I don't see the value, and I lack clarity, and I don't understand your offer. So this is about getting them in the beginning of the conversation to paint that clear picture of what it is that they're looking for, but also, what are you offering? So if you present an offer during your conversation, which I hope that you do, can you be really clear and really succinct on how you're going to help, why you're going to help, and what it is that you're delivering on? So that I need to think about it. Great. When someone needs to think about their particular problem or said solution, Brittany, it means they're feeling really unclear of either what I offered or their decision. Would you like to have an open and honest conversation on how we can gain some clarity here, right? This may lead to other objections coming up, which could potentially mean that they don't trust themselves, which is why they say that they need to think about it, okay? They don't know if this is the right solution. They don't know if this is going to help. You can refer back to the questions of number 1. Will this work? I didn't get results. Usually when they say I need to think about it, it's because there's a fear there, okay? They may not trust themselves and may be scared to say yes to this. So you have an opportunity to diffuse that place of unworthiness and also a lack of trust within self. Okay, 4, and I put some other ones in here so you could see. Now, number 4, the timing isn't right. I don't have the time. I've got 70 million things I need to do. Great. Awesome. Note that this particular objection is rooted in fear. Really, it shows you where their priorities are at this point in time. So you could ask a million different questions in this particular objection. You could ask the standard, if timing weren't an issue, would you be interested in this? Okay. You could ask, well, what happens if nothing changes and you're still stuck 6 months from now, a year from now in this same position and nothing has gone the way that you want it to? My favorite way of kind of diffusing this particular objection is saying, I understand that time can feel really finite when you're trying to achieve said goal. However, I know that if you stay where you're at. Or I know that if your business stays where it's, not making any money, or your personal finances aren't being, budgeted or taking a look at, you won't reach blank goal. You won't be able to take that vacation. You won't be able to potentially accrue more money, right? Whatever that desired goal that they're looking to get to, based on why they had a conversation with you in the first place. Would you like to talk about this further? How can we potentially see that there might be a commitment to this program? Or you could go back and ask a commitment-based question. I'd like to know why you said yes to hopping on this phone call today. You could ask that in the beginning of the conversation, and you can also ask that here. Well, Marcy, I wanted to know, why did you say yes to this call? Because you're making time for it right now. So obviously there is commitment on your part. Do you feel like you could potentially commit an hour of your week to said program, to said financial plan, to said bookkeeping, whatever it may be, right? And we can go into it from there. Number 5, I already have a coach, I already have a mentor, I already have a bookkeeper, I already have a financial advisor, blah, 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 whatever it is. The chances of this particular one coming about is very slim, but we still want to address it. So let's just say they've been working with another financial expert. So I'm going to put expert. We're working on the fly here, friends. So when it comes to this particular financial expert, how long have you been working with them? What if they say, I don't know, let's just say they say 10 years. Great. What are the results that this particular expert and you received during your time together? The reason why they give this particular objection is because they're not getting results from said coach, said expert, whoever it may be, right? They're not getting the results that they're looking for, which is why they're shopping. So based on how long you've actually been working with said person, can you explain to me why you're not getting results, or why you're not seeing the results that you're looking for, right? And you can also talk about your particular results here and find out where the gap is between the results that they're wanting and the results that they didn't get. Okay. So they might go into story around like, well, I didn't get results because I didn't put enough effort in. That's another objection. They might say, I didn't get results because they didn't pay attention to me, or I've been in this program for X amount of years, this financial based bookkeeping program or accounting program. And I just, I only heard from this person once a month and I wanted more touch points. Great. That's an opportunity for you, if you're working one-to-one with this person, to add those benefits into your work. It's also an opportunity for you to get even deeper into how your results can actually help. Okay. Objection number 6. I need to talk to my spouse before I make any decisions. Love this one, right? There's a couple of nuances here, but I also really like asking, is your spouse part of your business? chances are they'll say no. I find that spouse involved inside the business is like 20% of the time, unless they're a couple and they work together. So if that's the case, if they're not inside your business, excuse me, do they help you make business decisions? Right? Let them answer that. Or if they say, well, yeah, I mean, I make all of my business decisions and personal decisions. I view this as a personal decision, with my husband, with my wife, with my partner, what have you. Great. I absolutely love that you do that. I do that too. I really recommend this particular decision-making style because I've seen time and time again when partners actually help make the decision with you, and people in my programs or people in my line of work or what have you actually get more success or get better results because they're communicating with their partner. They're opening up to their partner and letting them know exactly where they're at when it comes to their business. Do you do that? Do you, by chance, let your partner know where you're at in your business? Have you been communicating with them on, where you're at with your finances, where you're at in your business? Let them answer. Maybe they don't. And if they don't, that's a perfect opportunity for you to potentially role play with them on what a decision-making conversation could potentially look like with their spouse. And I love that because for you to be able to give them guidance, you're coaching them through on what this conversation could look like. Also, it empowers them to then take this decision to their spouse, present what it would look like to get results in their business, and then come back to the table. You could follow up. I've done this. You could follow up on set date, set time, no more than 48 hours later. You could also invite the husband onto the call or the wife onto the call and let him ask you questions around, results, ROI, timing, all that good stuff. That usually pumps up your potential prospect. They're like, yeah, I want him or her involved in this decision-making process. So I love that. Thank you for offering. Great. Okay. Yeah. Last one. Yeah. But I just can't do it yet. I want to do this, but I can't start until X date. I can't start until September when my kids go back to school. Awesome. Well, a couple of options here. They say yes, but not yet. You could take a deposit. Maybe it's 10% down, 20% down. I don't know when it comes to financial advisors or planners around your fees, if you could do this, but it's a potential option if you're a financial coach, an accountant, or a bookkeeper. This is an option for you to secure their spot because maybe you're only taking on 2 or 3 more clients this month. So you can take a small deposit. You could offer them another call to kind of go over what to expect, show them an overview of more about what they're going to receive from you. And then you can take a payment on that call or take a payment now and then say, I'm going to offer you a bonus session as a thank you for saying yes, or as a thank you for wanting to do this, but not till later. And I want to give you a sneak peek of what it looks like to work with me. Great. Last thing, If at the end of navigating objections, they still need more time, I recommend setting up anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, maybe even that same day. I've had that happen to me too, where the person says, I just need a couple more hours to make a decision, get the money together. Can I take my time? Yes. So no more than 48 hours because you will tend to lose the sale. This also sets boundaries that you are standing in your power. We're not leaving the decision out in the wind. They're not coming back to you 3 weeks from now and saying that didn't work out. Like, I can't do this, right? And then if they are a no at the end of the objection, great, wonderful, speak your piece. Let them know that you're still here for them. Let them know that you did what you could to diffuse these objections and you're not going anywhere. You're still going to be here. And when it's a right time or, the money is there, then you could say, okay, let's follow up in 3 months from now, 6 months from now, whatever it may be. If they do say yes, then you onboard them, right? Bring them in. You have an onboarding process. I hope you do. I'm assuming that you do. When we onboard, truly intentionally celebrate that client, okay? Give them a chance to celebrate, do a weird happy dance, acknowledge the fact that they're saying yes to something that is life-changing and transformational. Get your, call scheduled when you're going to physically onboard. If you do an onboarding call like I do, you schedule up your session, you schedule your next call, that next meeting. If you're doing a financial plan, when are you going to get together within that 90-day to 6-month time frame or a year time frame? And then actually get them onboarded. Make sure that they have all their materials prior to, and this is clearly if they say yes. And then when we're onboarding, making sure that they have all the information they need for your systems, login information. If you have an assistant, allow for the assistant to kind of take it from here, and then you're good to go. So if you have any questions in regards to this particular training, when it comes to navigating objections, you can see that the beginning of this document, I go over actual sales questions. That is for my clients. I teach them how to ask sales questions, how to raise sales questions, and raise yourself into your expertise when you're asking these questions. If you have struggled in the past when it comes to your sales process and you're getting a lot of objections, to me, that tells me that your sales process is the biggest point of contention. And if that is the case, I highly recommend reaching out and let's do a sales audit together around your particular sales process. How can we dive deep into your particular questions you're asking and really take a look at where you might be missing sales questions and asking a potential prospect, because that right there could be the answer to all of your problems, right? Coming up with the right questions to ask your potential prospects. If you're not asking those particular questions that diffuses objections right away, chances are you're leaving hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on the table. So that I offer you a sales audit because, well, it's important to take a look at your sales process. It's also important to really understand why you might be getting objections in the first place. So Again, my name is Brittany Young, and this was Navigating and Overcoming Objections. I thank you so much for paying attention and watching this training. If you have questions, please reach out, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.